Hey guys, it's Marissa. We're live. I've got a retirement party for you today. We're going to celebrate Walrus Be Friends. Will Walrus Be Friends? That's one of my favorite stamp sets, and it's retiring. So let's send it on a fond farewell, shall we? With a fun new project. We're going to do a Z-Fold card. It's going to be the new challenge in the Kitchen Table Stamper Craft Social. This is our project today. It's a Z-Fold card. We currently have a gift card slider on the Craft Social, and that's your creative challenge. The challenge is open to be considered for prizes. They're just little something to let you, they're little sunshine prizes, but I'm giving away prizes if you make your slider and share it with us before midnight tonight. And then starting Saturday, this Z-Fold is going to be our new challenge. All right, so this is the card. The fun part about the Z-Fold is look at how cute that displays. So it stands up just like this, makes an adorable little display. Now, before we go into a quick bit of housekeeping, I want to show you my inspiration card. This is from my friend Linda Bendick. She sent me a birthday card. Isn't that awesome? So there's another one, and I will take a picture of that one and share it on the Craft Social too. Thank you, Linda. You are today's inspiration. The other thing we're going to cover today, besides the Z-Folds and casing Linda's card, Kathy Pilata asked me about watercolor wash behind an image. So we are going to play with that idea of backgrounding our images with some watercolor. So we're going to do a Z-Fold and a watercolor technique today. All right, quick bit of housekeeping. We are playing online bingo, and the information about that is at kitchentablestamper.com. We're going to do it as a Stamp-A-Stack this year. I've always done bingo as projects, but we're going to do it as a Stamp-A-Stack this year because we're adapting to online. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I have limited spaces in 2 time slots, and all the information about that is at kitchentablestamper.com. So check out online bingo. And then Will Walrus Be Friends is retiring. And I know you want to add this one to your collection before it's gone. If you do, and you use the host code, it's right on this post, and you order the stamp set, I'm going to send you this card. Make me make a lot of them. I don't mind. So order this set with the host code. I'll send you a card. Just a little fun inspiration for you. If you're loving Walrus Be Friends and you have it, or if you're going to order it, there is a fantastic Stamp-A-Stack card class already on the blog. It's a free card class. And I have, I think, 3 or 4 card kits left for the Walrus Be Friends Stamp-A-Stack. All right, so we're going to give Walrus Be Friends a really nice send-off. Happy retirement to a really cool stamp set. All right. At the end of the video, I'll show you the Walrus Be Friends Stamp-A-Stack cards. If we can collect them all. They've probably, I might have sent them all. Desi, I might have sent them all. It might just be on the blog. I think I sent all my Walrus Be Friend cards. I can't show you my Walrus Be Friend cards because I already mailed them all away. But check out the blog for more inspiration with Walrus Be Friends and a Stamp-A-Stack set. Or a Stamp-A-Stack class packet. That's what I mean to say. All right, so Walrus Be Friends is our featured stamp set here. Did you guys see that inside? And it stands like this. All right, so if you're just joining us, here's what we're making today. Do you see my sneak peek? Who sees the sneak peek of the 2020-2021 new catalog item? Anybody catch it? All right, let's get started with our watercolor wash background. I've got a piece of watercolor paper here. This piece is 2 3/8 by 3 1/2, and it fits right inside the stitched edges of this Stitched So Sweetly die cut. This one is the largest, I believe, from the Stitched So Sweetly. Yeah, this one, yeah, 4 1/8 by 2 15/16, and then watercolor paper to layer inside. All right, so we're going to take our watercolor paper, and I've got an aqua painter and my Seaside Spray Stampin' Pad. So this is a super simple technique, and it adds a lot of interest to your card fronts, but you are not going to have any control over this, and this is a hard thing for me. So if you're like me and you like to have just so results, you're going to have to really understand in your own mind that you're going to get the results that you're going to get, okay? So we're going to squeeze the pad, and what we're doing by squeezing the pad is applying ink to the cover. You could also drop a little bit of a re-inker on here and use this as a paint palette. So we've got our paint palette, we've got our aqua painter and our watercolor cardstock. We're going to take our aqua painter and get it really wet. We're even squeezing just lightly as we go across the watercolor paper. We want to see the puddles of water on the cardstock or on the watercolor paper. Then you're going to pick up lots of Seaside Spray ink and go back in, and you see how it starts to move in that water? Squeeze your brush a little bit as you go. You're going to get some really cool effects here. Now I've got kind of a wash. Then what I like to do is squeeze a little more water and go in with a little bit more ink, and I dab around my corners a little bit. It's just how I do it. You're never going to get the same effect twice. I'll just tell you that, and you really don't have any control over it. So I hate being out of control. I like having control of my results. But if you can give it up and not have some control, you can have some really cool effects. All right, when you're using an aqua painter, so that's got to set aside to dry. I like to move my ink around just a little bit too. See how the puddles are rolling? I think that gives a cool finished effect. See, when I rolled the paper a little bit here, the ink kind of rolled in toward the center, and it dries with a little bit of a watermark. So I like to manipulate it a little bit. Clean your brush when you are done with the aqua painter just by swiping it off on scratch paper until the water runs clear. And we're done with that technique. Now we got to set that aside to dry, and it'll dry while we're working. It's a very, very humid day. You can dry this with your heat tool, but it's going to move the ink. So you're going to have a slightly different effect because of that moving ink. All right, so let's bring back in our sample here, and we're going to do a little stamping. I've got a scrap of Whisper White, just big enough for my walrus, and I've also got the inside panel. So inside, see this dude? This is the largest stitched rectangles dies. Perfect for the inside of these. Gives you that nice little stitching detail since it shows out. This is the 5 1/8 by 3 3/16 stitched rectangle. Let's get our Memento Tuxedo black ink and do a little stamping here. All right, so we've got the little scrap. All we want is our walrus. We don't want the little waves around him, so I've got to line that up and stamp him. I do want his eyebrows, though. I think they're so cute. If you saw the back on your feet Stamp-A-Stack cards, the little turtle, I kept cutting him out, fussy cutting him, but I leave the little eyebrows on. So just our walrus. And then inside, we're going to have that fun little surprise. So we're going to do another little walrus. They'll walrus be friends. So get that guy on the inside. We're going to hold off on stamping our watercolor. You want that to be completely dry before you do the sentiments. We'll come back at the end and stamp that guy. Let me find my lid. Slide this to the side, and we're going to do a little bit of coloring now. Let's see. For my walrus on the outside, I've got Smoky Slate, Ivory, and Seaside Spray. And I'm going to do him with very simple Stampin' Blends, alcohol marker coloring. I'm going to fill in his body with a light Smoky Slate. When you're filling in a large area like this, it helps if you fill in with little circles and you go back along the edge each time to keep your ink wet. Wet ink blends, dry ink layers, and we want to blend here. So we're going to fill in our walrus. We're going to give him a really good base coat of light Smoky Slate. So I hope that little coloring tips help you, because watching me color is kind of like watching paint dry. But it's really important that you get a good base coat, and to get a smooth base coat, you keep going back over that final edge as you spread further across your image. Now we've got that good wet base coat. I'm going to go in with a darker one and shadow along the bottom of him. And then I'm going to follow the artist here, and I'm going to shadow his wrinkles. And down the far edge. I love a good hand-drawn image. Artists really will give you a good idea of where you want to shade when you're doing coloring with Stampin' Blends. And generally, something like the walrus, he's round and he moves further around him and away from you, you're going to have a little bit of shadow. So as well as doing the lines that the artist drew in, you'll also kind of shadow the extreme edges. If you just follow that as a guide, you'll have good coloring every time. And where the light and dark meet, we're just using little scribbles. I might flick across these little wrinkles. There he is. Now I'm going to hold on to my light smoky slate and bring in my ivory. I'm going to color his little, what is this called on a walrus? It's not a snout. I don't know what it is. His cheeks. And I'm going to shadow with the light smoky slate and then go over those little dots with the light smoky slate. And then bring those two colors together. All right, there's a walrus. Now we'll do an iceberg. Janet always enjoys my videos. Thank you. I hope you don't mind watching me color and cut. All right, so light seaside spray. I'm just going to go along the edge of the iceberg. Make a little shadow underneath him because he's going to cast a shadow along the bottom edge. And then down the streaks here that the artist drew in for us. This is with the light seaside spray. And then with the dark, we'll really go right up against him and darken that shadow as far away from our eye as we get, which is the back of the iceberg here. We'll darken the shadow. On these little streaks, we'll go with a lighter coat and darken our shadow. And then along the very bottom edge. And we're going to let this just blend itself. There's no need to go back in there. You'll darken up your iceberg too much. If you were unhappy, if it looked too streaky or too stark to you, you could just go along the edge with your color lifter of this seaside spray, and that'll make your white ice look nice and white. If you leave it alone, it looks like you forgot to color it. If you add little blue shadows, then it looks like ice. Good? So we've got our outside walrus. We're going to do our inside walrus really the same way. But he's so much quicker because he's little light smoky slate. Shadow with the dark. All right, so there's our guy. I'm keeping my light smoky slate again for a second. We'll do his snout, his cheeks. Ivory. It's a strange blend, isn't it? Ivory and smoky slate, but it really works. It has kind of a natural look. And then bring those two completely different colors together. Wait till you see my bird. I couldn't decide what color to color my bird, so I colored it every color. All right, on the water, I'm going to do little circles again, but not to fill in, but instead little spaces in between. Really, do you see? It's not a solid like we're coloring in. It's more like a scribble. And then I'll take my color lifter and really saturate the edge of that. We're going to soften that and blend it back to the white a little bit. And I'm really soaking the paper here. My color lifter is a little dry. If you have a new color lifter, you won't need quite as much work. And then along the crusts of the waves, oh, I want the small side. I'll take the dark seaside spray and just do the crusts of the waves. Bring that back with a little bit of light seaside spray. So now you can see the crusts are darker and then the waves kind of fade out into the white And my bird, told ya, couldn't decide what color to make him, so I made him every color. Got a little bit of So Saffron the Dark, did his beak. Got a little light Rococo Rose. I'm gonna do his tail and his behind, maybe about halfway up. Then color lifter, and fade that Rococo Rose. Then Seaside Spray for his head. And where it meets the Rococo Rose, it makes him kind of a purple color. So my little bird is pink, blue, purple, and yellow, all in that little space. All right, so there's our coloring. We got to do some cutting. I'm going to trim out my little walrus, and I'm going to cut just about against the line, the tiniest little hair of white. We'll make sure that we have a nice complete image. He's pretty easy, just kind of a bubble cut almost. I like to leave his eyebrows on and some of the little marks that the artist has there, the little brush strokes. And you'll see that my right hand, which is my dominant hand, closes the scissors, but most of the work is being done by my left hand as it turns the paper and guides. If you're used to watching my videos, you know that I will recommend that you always hold your scissor with your thumb and your ring finger. Your index finger and middle finger support the bottom blade of the scissor. That'll give you a smoother cut. And when you get to the end, you're done. So this is how I hold a scissor. A lot of people hold a scissor like this and wonder why they cut raggedy. If you hold your scissor this way and support the blade, you'll get a much smoother cut. All right, not too bad. This guy's still drying, but hang on, I gotta dry one. There's one that I did before the video, and it's completely dry. You can see around the edges of the water where it's still wet. I'll put this one aside for the next card. Here's one that's dry. And then this one, as compared to this one, look at how different. See, you've got no control. The water does what the water wants to do, but it really does look cool, doesn't it? I need to get over it and do it some more. Hey, Marianne. All right. I will walrus be your friend. Isn't that just too cute? I'm going to dry fit my little walrus. It'll help me to position my sentiment. I'm going to stamp over our dry background. It's completely dry. This is going to be really hard to do because in between my hand with the stamp and my face is the phone. And so I'm going to do the best I can to get this not uphill or downhill. But man, it's tricky. Not too bad. Friend is a little bit light. I could have pushed a little bit more evenly, but I don't think it's uphill or downhill. And that's what bugs me the most. Is when my sentiments are not level. All right. I'll walrus be your friend. I'm going to take some multi-purpose liquid glue. Now, I like multi-purpose liquid glue, or if you wanted to, even maybe tear tape on watercolor backgrounds because they do warp a little bit. So I'm going kind of thick, but not all the way to the edge. I don't want it to ooze out, but I don't want it to be curled up either. So I'm going to glue my little watercolor background centered in my Stitched So Sweetly shape. We showed you that one earlier. It's smoky slate, by the way. I think I said that, but don't know. I'm going to burnish this guy down. Just let that adhesive really spread to the edges because it is rolled up a little bit from the water. All right, so this is our awesome watercolor background. Our little walrus dude. Let's adhere him with some Stampin' Dimensionals. All right, pop this guy up. This guy doesn't want to come off of here. Come on, there we go. Now it wants to stick to my finger better than it wants to stick to the paper. It's humid here today. I think that's affecting my adhesive a bit. All right, pop this guy up. He's so cute. Okay, let's talk about our card base for the Z folds. It's a pretty simple fun folds. Starts out with a standard size. My favorite fun folds are the ones that start out with a standard size, either 4 1/4 by 11, like this one is. So it's a half a sheet of paper, or 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. I like when a fun fold starts with a standard size. So let's go ahead and grab our Simply Scored. And we're going to score this guy on the 11-inch side at 2 3/4 and 5 1/2. Super simple card base, but the fun little, I don't know, the whimsy of that Z fold and the way that the card will display itself make this fold special. So we're folding at 5 1/2, and we've got your standard side fold card. Now we'll fold backwards at the 2 3/4 fold. That's it. That's a joy fold card. That's a Z fold card. And the fun part is it displays really neat. Hey, April, it's good to see you. All right, so here's what we're making. I want to see your Z fold cards. Share them on the craft social. Now for the fun part. Did you guys notice my sneak peek item here? I've got some brand new Designer Series paper. It's in color Designer Series paper. Let me show you this little sample. So the new 2020-2022 in colors are available for demonstrators to pre-order. Just Jade, Magenta Madness, Cinnamon Cider, Misty Moonlight, and Bumblebee. Aren't those awesome? All right, so those are the new in colors. We're going to use some of that Designer Series paper here. And I love the Misty Moonlight with the denim ribbon. Isn't that a really cool combination? We're going to tie our denim ribbon around our Stitch So Sweetly panel because it is just the perfect coordination for Misty Moonlight. And we want a kind of floppy little bow at the bottom. Got about 16 inches of ribbon. What paper am I using? Cardstock is Seaside Spray. The Designer Series paper is the 6x6 2020-2022 in color paper stack. And the Stitch So Sweetly is Smoky Slate. All right, so we're going to trim along the edge here. All right. So cute. I love that Misty Moonlight is such a great denim color. All right. Here's our Misty Moonlight Designer Series paper. It's dots on one side. It's like a texture on the other side. It looks like denim. Look at the texture with the texture of the ribbon. Isn't that cool? So paper piecing images with jeans or overalls, pockets. This is going to be a really fun new in color to play with. I'm going to use the dots though because I have a thing for polka dots. Let's use some multi-purpose liquid glue. I'm going to glue down this guy here in this outside segment of our Z-fold card. Okay, flip. Kathy says I make the color wash look so easy. Still can't get it. You know what? It's about just letting go. Wet the watercolor, swoosh the ink over it, set it aside to dry, and then judge your effort. Don't judge your effort as you go. And that's the best advice I can give you. The watercolor wash is a hard technique for me too. Play with it. Don't be afraid to try it. Don't be afraid of the results. Let the results speak for themselves before you judge your effort. Those are the best words of advice I can give you on the watercolor. Okay, we got the inside piece burnished down in there. Now for this guy, you could use dimensionals here if you want to, but I don't want to double bump because I'm going to be mailing these guys. So I'm going to use a little tear and tape, but I'm using tear and tape because of the ribbon. You could use multi-purpose liquid glue if you didn't have that ribbon there. So I'm going to go along my ribbon here at the edge. And remember that we've got a Z-fold, so you can't go past like 2/3. Otherwise you'll glue your card closed. So be aware of where you're putting your adhesive. If you put it on the right-hand side, you're going to glue your card closed. Kathy says she loves the design on the new Designer Series paper. Do you like the dots? Do you like the texture that looks like fabric or like textile? Or do you like both? I also showed you guys the wood grain on my in color card. So I'm sending these cards to anybody who orders Walrus Befriend with the host code, and also to my kitchenettes. April was a pending month, and so with Stampin' Up, you get the starter kit. It's $99 to get started. You pick $125 worth of product. There's a $300 quarterly minimum. But I always say, if you don't make your minimum, it happens. Nobody comes to take your kit away, right? So you drop out in pending months. If you want to know anything more about, minimums or being in a Stampin' Up demonstrator, reach out, email me or call me. We can talk about it. But I had a few demonstrators that dropped out in April in a pending month. And so I'm sending them Walrus Be Your Friend cards, just to let them know that I'm still thinking of them. I have a saying around kitchen table stamper. If you've been a kitchenette, you've probably heard it, especially if you've been a kitchenette who's not made a minimum and dropped a quarter or come back. I say, once a kitchenette, always a kitchenette. So I'm sending some of my kitchenettes who have dropped the Walrus Be Your Friend cards. And anybody who wants to place an order for this stamp set using the host code, I'm going to send you one too. All right, so I'm dotting some multi-purpose liquid glue, and I have the woven threads sequins here. I'm going to work on getting just the white ones and the Seaside Spray ones, but I think the whole assortment is kind of pretty with our color combination here, especially since I colored the bird Magical Rainbow. See what happens when I can't decide what color to use? We get a rainbow bird. Let's see here. I got kind of bigger ones close to my walrus, and then I'll use some of the smaller ones as they fade away. I like to grab my sequin on the Take Your Pick tool and then just drop it into the glue. Makes using sequins pretty easy. Problem is, though, when you want specific ones, like when you drop them in a shaker box, you just put them all in there. Or a shaker card, you just put them all in there. But for a card like this, I want the right color and sizes. So Take Your Pick does help make that job a little easier. What a cutie. Here we go. A Walrus Be Your Friend. We've got questions about the project, the retiring list, joining the kitchenettes, anything Stampin' Up I can do for you, email marisa@kitchentablestamper.com. And to get Walrus Befriends while supplies last, Marisa Alvarez.stampinup.net.